Hello, everyone. Welcome to Amago, Season 1, Episode 24, Speaking with Authority. Beloved, now we are children of God, and it has not yet been revealed what we shall be, but we know when He is revealed, we shall be just like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. 1 John chapter 3, verse 2. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Vanessa Brown. I hope that you've had a wonderful week. I thought that we were finished talking about authority, but the Spirit continued to reveal to me more about authority this week. So I thought that tonight we would talk about speaking with authority. Let's use Mark chapter 1, verse 22 for the context of our conversation tonight. And it says, "They were astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, not as the scribes." And I also need us to use John 14, verses 10 and 11 to help us build the framework for our conversation as well. So let's look at that. And that says, "Don't you believe that I am in the Father and that the Father is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority. Rather, it is my Father living in me who is doing his work. Believe me when I say I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe in the evidence of the works themselves." In episode 20 of the Amago podcast, Authority Looks Good on You, we started the conversation by defining authority as the Greek word exousia, power to act, a weight, influence. Exousia is this delegated power, the power that God gives his children, authorizing them to act, but authorizing them to act only to the extent of his revealed word to them. So, in other words, you can only have God's authority and his power to act based on the level of revelation that you have from God. He doesn't overextend your authority. I've had several encounters this past week that confirmed for me the need for us to talk about speaking with authority. I know that I shouldn't eat it, but one of my favorite things is Waffle House waffles, right? So my husband and I went to Waffle House on Saturday afternoon. I just wanted to enjoy a nice, well done Waffle House waffle while it was hot after I had worked in my yard all morning. And so as the two of us are sitting and we are dining at Waffle House, two of the managers there are at the front counter and they are with an employee, having this conversation with an employee that made both my husband and I quite uncomfortable. So apparently was some money that was missing at this particular store, and they were questioning the employee, who was a manager, I assume, at the front counter, like out in the open in front of everybody. And so now, for those of you who are listening, to be fair to you all, I have an undergraduate degree in sociology, so I'm watching this, and all kinds of sociological constructs and things are going on in my head. You know, I'm thinking about slavery. I'm thinking about plantations. I'm thinking about the justice system. I'm thinking about education. I'm thinking about the white-black thing. I'm thinking about the rich-poor thing. I'm thinking about the have-nots. And I'm sitting here still trying to enjoy my waffle. I was facing them, watching this conversation happen. So I could see the manager, I could see the employee, but my husband's back was to them. And then I could see my husband's face looking at me and his expression, and he was uncomfortable. And he could see my expression, and he could see that I was getting angry watching this take place. I was uncomfortable as I was trying to enjoy my meal because I felt like this is not right. And so I looked at my husband and I said, well, I would say something, but I know that you would get angry with me if I said something. And he said to me, well, the person that they're talking to really should say something about it. I said to my husband, well, they probably don't have the capacity to speak to their manager at that level of authority, or they may not feel like they have the right to, or they might not really even understand all of what's going on or why it's not right. So I continue to try to finish my breakfast, but I'm only halfway through my waffle at this point. And then my insides are like stirring. And I finally said to my husband, yeah, I have to say something, but I'm going to wait until we leave and I'll make sure that I'm pleasant about it. And he said, okay. So when we start talking about speaking with authority, the first thing that I want to mention is that when you have conferred authority, you walk in the Spirit. In Mark chapter 1, verse 21, Jesus went into the synagogue and he began to teach. Exousia is a conferred authority, which simply means the power of who you are representing is extended to you. We talked about that last week, that the king has dominion over his kingdom, but when you are given conferred authority, you have the power to move freely throughout the kingdom to carry out the will of the king. So you walk constantly connected to the king, knowing that you possess this power and this authority that comes from the king, and your mindset is always connected to what is it that the king would desire, what is it that the king would have you to do, how is it that the king would have this order carried out. So Jesus is in Mark 1 in the temple teaching. Jesus is just doing what Jesus does, what he is commissioned to do, and that is to teach. And when he opens his mouth, it is with the power of God, and it is noticeable. So when you speak with authority, it is not with the sense that you have to, or the expectation is that you are loud, or that you're rude, or that you are calling some special attention to yourself. It is just that you have the power of the king within you, and it is noticeable. John 14:11 says, believe me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. So as you are walking around, it is the Father that is in you. So it is not anything that you need to do. When you are walking with the Spirit of God, you have the power of God within you. But at the same time, you know what the will of God is, and you know when to use your authority. That was last week's lesson as well, right? But you know when to use that authority, and you know how to speak with the authority. Because again, as you are moving throughout the king's kingdom, you know what the king's desire is and how he expects his kingdom to operate. So I want you to hold on to that nugget. The second thing or point that I want to make is there are always going to be observers. So I find it interesting that the folks that were in the temple where Jesus was teaching in verse 22 were very observant of his actions. Ironically, they were supposed to be listening to his teaching, but they also paid very close attention to his actions. Exousia, right, this conferred power that's on you, moves you as a person from ordinary to extraordinary. So when Jesus went to the temple to teach, that wouldn't have been anything out of the ordinary. Jesus was doing what all of the scribes and the Pharisees did. They went to the temple to teach. But his teaching was different. Again, John 14:11 says, "Believe me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me," or at least believe on the evidence of the miracles themselves. People who speak with authority are able to demonstrate what they speak because there is power behind their authority. Now, by demonstration of their power, I mean there should always be a change in the situation. There should be a change in the room. There should be a change in the lives of the people. There should be a change in the lives of the people you pray for. There should be evidence of the works. If there is no evidence of the works, then there is no authority, if that makes sense. There is no exousia, or there is no power, if there is no revelation. If we go back and look at the scripture in Mark, when Jesus addresses the man with the spirit, with the evil spirit, Jesus changes his life. He is not the same. Anytime you speak with authority, there should be a change. That is your demonstration of the power that you have spoken with authority and that you have used exousia. That separates you from ordinary to extraordinary. You should see that there is some difference in the room, in the atmosphere. If nothing is changing, then there has been no power in your speech. There has been no exousia. The third point is, and why that is that exousia is high octane. It is a different energy level. When it is released, those who hear it begin to ask where it came from because they realize that it is not the same. The level or frequency or the output is not the same. It hits differently, right? It has a different impact. Speaking with authority will cause you to be picked out. So you must understand you have to have been given the authority. Jesus said in John 14, "It is the Father living in me doing his work." When we read about Jesus and Mark, he's in the temple teaching, and then from there he begins healing many people and doing many great works in Capernaum and in other areas. But he's been given the authority to do the work by his Father. So when you speak with authority, you understand that you are going to get picked out, but it's not about you, it's about the work. It's about the assignment that you have been given and what he is trusting you to do. So once again, Exousia and speaking with authority is a different energy level, because when it is released, those who hear it begin to ask and recognize that I've heard this before, but this time it's different. It's got a different power to it. It has a different frequency, a different output. It does not impact people the same. Speaking with authority has a different, what I call, high octane. When you go to the gas station, you have a choice. You can put all of those gases in your car, except the one you're not supposed to put in, right? But you can put in regular, the mid-level, or you can put premium in. And I don't use what they call regular gas in my car. I always use the mid, even though the manufacturer of my vehicle says that I can put regular gas in my car. I always use the mid-level gas. And previously I was using premium gas because premium gas has a higher octane. The gas is cleaner. It makes the engine perform at a higher level. And so when you have Exousia, when you have this conferred, this power that has been given to you by God based on your level of revelation, then your engine operates at a higher performance, right? And again, all of the gases do the same thing. And that really is a good analogy for each of us. All of us can do the same thing. We can all walk in the Spirit, but based on our revelation, some of us will operate regular, some of us will operate on mid-level, and then some of us will operate on premium. But we all operate. But understand that it's based on our revelation and our relationship with Jesus Christ. And then finally, I want to finish my story about what took place at Waffle House. So after I finished my meal, I went to the register and I spoke to one of the managers. And I shared with him that I was a minister and that I considered myself a servant leader. I shared with him my profession and the number of people that I supervise daily, just because I wanted him to have context for the comment that I was going to make. I then shared with him that as a customer, this was my perception from the point of being now a customer, having to listen and see the interaction between him and the employee made my husband and I uncomfortable, and that it affected our appetite. I shared with him that as a leader, I might suggest that it would have been better for them to have that conversation privately with their employee in the back office, because it made me feel as if they were accusing him of stealing. And the manager quickly corrected me. No, ma'am, we didn't think he was stealing. We just knew that he was here that night and there were some funds missing, and so we were just trying to figure out what happened to the money. And I said to him, my point exactly, sir. If I had not taken the time to have this conversation with you, I would have left this restaurant believing that you were grilling your employee and treating him this way publicly. But because I took the time to have this conversation with you, I'm now leaving with a different impression. Point taken? He said, yes, ma'am. I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me know. So, my point for bringing up this employee and what happened at the Waffle House is that the Holy Spirit was already working in me. The employee may or may not have had the capacity to understand how he was being treated. But the interaction with his managers was impacting me to the point where I knew it was not right. That this is my Father's kingdom, and this is not the way that he would have any of his children treated. And that as a representative of God, it's my responsibility to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. And to do so in such a manner that I am not being offensive to the people who perhaps were wronging the person. The King of Glory has conferred his power on us to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. That's why you have been given the authority to speak. Like Jesus, you have been given authority to speak to silence devils. You might have missed that in the book of Mark. When Jesus was in the temple teaching, notice that the evil spirit began to speak up, and Jesus silences him. Those powers and principalities that have raised themselves up above those who feel they don't have power and authority, we have been sent against those to silence them. We have been given authority to do greater works so that when we walk into rooms and we walk into situations like that one at the Waffle House, we set things in order. We change those situations. Now, my expectation is that those leaders, the managers, will never handle their employees like that again, and that they will consider having a private conversation with their employees anytime a situation like that occurs. I won't be there, I may never know, but the God in me tells me they will never forget that moment, because out of the two of them, I do believe that it pricked at least one heart. He'll always remember the conversation that I had with him at the counter, because I know Exousia was in motion. I know that the power of God was moving because I could feel it in the room. I will speak with authority, and I will use my voice, not in a nasty way, not in a neck rolling, popping. No, that's not what we're talking about. But I will use my voice, and I will speak with authority to defend those who may not have the capacity to defend themselves. But we have been given Exousia. God bless you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please visit our website at omegohim.com to check out our coaching and leadership development services. You can find me on Instagram at omegohim, or join us on Facebook by typing IMAGO. Be sure to like or share our post, and be sure to download the Omego podcast. Until next week, we will see you then. And until then, we shall be just like him.